it's on fire. Thank God for movies. I am John Negroni. I am one of the co-founders, one of the editors for In Between Drafts. And with me today, he is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, based out of the Pittsburgh area. He's actually a staff writer, I think is his official title, for Comic Book Resources. It's not staff writer? What is it?
No, I'm just a writer.
A writer.
Yeah.
He's an ace reporter for Comic Book Resources. It's Will Ashton.
What up? How we doing?
Doing super well, Will Ashton. Nothing lifts my spirits higher than when you and I get on the mic to talk about movies, because, I mean, thank God for movies.
Indeed. Yeah, so I've been chomping at the bit. I feel like you tease me with these recordings. We, do one, and then, a month later, you're like, yeah, let's do another. I'm just used to it being a weekly thing, just, back to back to back. But now it's like...
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want to tell the listeners a little bit. I don't want to TMI with the listeners, but I do want to give them kind of a heads up, a little bit of a more concrete explanation for what's been going on with me. I'm not going to get full into detail, and Will knows this stuff already, of course. Short version, a couple years ago, I think it was 2.5 years ago, I basically made the decision that I was going to be stepping away from film criticism. I think we talked about it, I think I brought it up on, the podcast formerly known as Cinemaholics. And the basic idea was yeah, we could still check in. We could still talk about movies once in a while. And we wanted to keep the dream alive, mainly because I just enjoy talking about movies with you, Will, and we just happen to record them. It really isn't an enterprise or anything like that. And
well, not yet, at least.
Well, yeah, never say never, right? All that being said, a lot of my plans, a lot of my life stuff has changed rather dramatically in the last couple of months, and I'll just say I'm okay with the folks knowing. It's not a secret or anything. I am going through a divorce, and so I'm no longer married. And part of that means that a lot of the stuff that kind of went into my decision and to not do film reviews, not that I was forbidden from ever doing them. I don't want to make it sound like I was married to an anti-film person, of course. But my life is basically been freed up to, get back into watching movies again, and I'm looking at it as an opportunity. I'm doing all right. Nobody has to worry about your old pal, John. Everybody's happy. Everybody's doing well. I know Will is happy because I finally watched Hitman on Netflix.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Wait, what? You haven't seen it?
No, I haven't gotten around to that one. That's one of my...
I had it confused. I thought you saw that one already.
No, that one I haven't seen yet.
No, never mind. Well, whatever. I did, you know what? I actually, before we started recording, I started watching Civil War. I finally started watching that movie. I freaking hate it. Not because it's a bad movie, but...
It's all right. I don't know.
I'm sticking with it. I'm just oh my God, this is the most 2024 movie that came out in 2024. Truly. But anyway.
Yeah, it's better than Men, but I think I like Warfare a little bit better. But neither of them...
that's next on my list.
None of those three really stack up to Alex Garland's first two directorial efforts. I have no idea what Elden Ring's going to be like. I believe it's based on a video game. It's supposed to be an A24 blockbuster, which who knew such a thing would become a thing someday. But yeah, it's... I don't know. I'm not quite sure where I stand on Alex Garland at this point, but... Yeah, Civil War is in the
where
middle.
You're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm his first two movies were unimpeachable, great films. We talked about Annihilation on our show years ago, but it's kind of a different era. Yeah, we missed the boat on Ex Machina. I know we talked about Ex Machina on Now Conspiring, the kind of prototype podcast, but you weren't around back then. You didn't come around until 2016. But anyway, let's play Have You Seen It? Now that we've blown past my personal nonsense, and then we easily pivoted into Alex Garland discourse, which, congratulations us. Now we can talk about some movies that are in theaters, and what I want to know, Ashton, is, have you seen the film?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to see it?
Sure.
Or do you have no plan whatsoever to see it? And actually, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. We are going to talk about Obsession and Blue Heron. Those are going to be real reviews. Will and I are going to review those films after this upcoming segment. But this is our chance to kind of catch up a little bit and, talk about the state of what's going on in the theaters right now between the box office critical reception and whether or not we are going to be seeing the movies or maybe have already seen those movies. So that's what this segment is all about. Are you ready, Will?
Ready as I'll ever be, John.
I already know the answer to this question, but the listeners might not. This first film I have here is the big Memorial Day box office buster, and that might be a bad thing. It didn't make much money. Star Wars, The Mandalorian, and Grogu, which debuted in theaters instead of Disney Plus.
I mean, I believe it made money. It just didn't make Star Wars money.
I think it made is on track to make less than Solo, or maybe around the same as Solo, something like that. I haven't looked
Yeah.
at it.
I
Which
know
yikes.
it's not what Disney wanted, which, I mean, I feel like they've been kind of anticipating this for the last few months. I don't think they were expecting this to be a big hit, but they were really hoping it would be anyway. And yeah, I mean, I kind of talked about this idea earlier when I talked about how I wasn't interested in the Marvels or some of the other Marvel related films. I just don't really like the idea of like trying to make TV homework for films. And I get the sense that The Mandalorian Grogu is supposed to be more of a standalone adventure, but I don't really get the sense that it feels like a theatrical experience. It feels like something I should just wait to watch on Disney Plus because it doesn't look particularly cinematic. It doesn't feel particularly cinematic. So I'm just probably going to wait to see it on Disney Plus if I ever get around to seeing it. So at the moment, I don't really have any concrete plans to see this film.
So I did see it. I watched it last week, and I reviewed it for In Between Drafts. And, we're hoping to do a bonus episode of Thank God for Movies where I might be able to talk about it with a guest since Will didn't want to check it out. But it's a big movie, so I figured, yeah, if we can make that happen, you can always read my review too. But yeah, I mean, the short version is that it's not cinematic. It just isn't, plain and simple.
Yeah.
All right, this next one. I love boosters.
I am planning to see that at some point. It may not be this week, but probably by next week, I want to check this one out.
Yeah, that's a new Boots Riley film. I'm thinking about watching it maybe tonight,
Sweet.
possibly. Part of I now live in a new place, and I live within walking distance of not one, but two movie theaters. One is this kind of like old school traditional movie theater that plays like classic movies sometimes, and it only has two screens. And then there's kind of a traditional, but not like a megaplex kind of movie theater, but it's kind of a traditional movie theater that plays more stuff just a little bit further down the road. And Will, I have been loving the heck out of that. I'll tell you that much. So
Mm.
anyway,
Yeah, I know. I'll be curious to hear what you think about I Love Boosters if you end up seeing it because I remember you weren't too hot on Sorry to Bother You.
I
You were
was
one of the
not.
more negative folks at the time. I liked that movie. I didn't love it. I was really excited for it, and I feel like it didn't quite reach my expectations, but I remember enjoying it and being excited to see what Boots Riley was going to do next as a filmmaker. I never got around to seeing I'm a Vertigo, the Amazon series he had a few years ago, but it looked fun. And this also looks pretty fun. I heard the reactions are kind of more mixed than Sorry to Bother You, but I know it's a big San Francisco film, as was
It is. I,
Sorry
I
to
was
Bother You.
kicking myself because I wasn't able to go to the red carpet thing. There was a whole event, kind of like they did the same thing for Sorry to Bother You, which, yeah, I thought Sorry to Bother You. I liked the idea, the concept, and like the first third of it, but that movie goes so off the rails, and it's just doing so much. I got
I
exhausted.
mean,
But I've heard this is a little bit cleaner in terms of like the story, the concept, and setup. But I don't know. I don't know.
I'll be honest, I've heard the exact opposite. I've heard this one is
Here we
goofier
go.
and more off the rails, which is so it's funny that you're like, those are my complaints about Sorry to Bother You. So I'm like, oh, I don't know about this, but I am
Hey, maybe
excited
it
to see
pulls it
it.
off. Maybe it
Yeah.
pulls it off. I don't know. All right, this next film, Passenger, not to be confused with the Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt film,
Yeah.
Passen Passengers, I think.
Yeah.
No, this one is double check here. Uh, I don't know. Andre Overdall's
hmm
new film with who's in this one? I actually don't know. I don't
Well,
know these actors.
I will say this one, I kind of forgot it was coming out because I remember seeing the
Oh, Melissa Leo.
teaser for this like a while ago, like probably earlier in the year, maybe just January or something. It had a really cool teaser. Nothing like, revolutionary, but I was like, oh, that sounds like a cool little movie. It looks like a nifty little concept. But all the reviews I've seen and reactions I've seen on Letterboxd are like, yeah, don't bother. It's not very good. I think the most enthusiastic one I've seen so far is like a 3 out of 5. So I'm not particularly swayed to see it, even though I was. If before the reviews, I would have been like, yeah, I'd be curious to check that one out. Now I'm like, maybe that's a streaming title. I don't know. But I was sad to see that the reviews, or at least the reactions for it, weren't too positive because it looked kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same. Maybe it'll be a curious rental down the road. This next film is one that I was a little bit more interested in myself. That's Tuner, new film directed by Daniel Roher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah. Was this
I
on
did.
your radar at all?
It was. I saw it.
Look at that.
I wrote an article about it as well for CPR. I don't know if it's out yet. It probably won't be published until around the time this episode comes out, maybe a little after. But I
So
enjoyed this one.
this one has Leah Woodall, has Dustin Hoffman, Havana Rose Liu. You might remember her from Bottoms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this movie, the way I described it, I think on Letterbox is it's like if you hired Damien Chazelle to make a crossover of Baby Driver and Thief, and you threw in some like Grand Theft Auto Russian goons in there for a good measure. It's a pretty fun movie. It's nothing that's gonna like, really knock your socks up, but it has a really cool profession as its focus. Like it focuses on piano tuners in a very jazzy, stylish way that, you just don't really get to see that profession, let alone such a hyper energy style. It has really strong performances and character beats. It's clearly, visually kind of dynamic. It has a good rat-a-tat style to it. It plays out more predictably as it goes along, but it's fun. I would recommend it. I think it's like a solid, I know we don't do ratings anymore, but I say it's like a warm B. Like it's like a good film I would recommend to people. I don't know if you're going to see in theaters, but it's worth seeing.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. I do remember watching Navalny, Daniel Roher's documentary, which that one was like seems to be kind of like a totally different tilt than this. So interesting to see this
Yeah.
director kind of switching it up a little bit.
I will also say I know he had another documentary earlier this year. I think he may have co-directed it. It was like the AI doc, which I don't really have much interest in. I know it's not supposed to be like pro or con anti or for
I heard it
AI.
was
It's like,
more con, and
okay.
that's you're talking about the AI doc or how I became an
Yeah.
apocalyptimist.
I don't know. The trailer for it just kind of made it seem like, well, it doesn't
Who
seem good,
knows?
but maybe it's not bad. I'm like, I don't really like AI is just bad. I don't really want to hear a both sidism take on AI, to be honest, at this point. But I'm sure the movie's fine.
This next film is one I didn't hear about this one until pretty recently, and I can see why. Corporate Retreat.
This one, I heard about it, but I don't know too much about it.
Okay, so Odea Rush is in it. It's directed by Aaron Fisher. Alan Ruck is in it from Succession. Sasha Lane. Yeah, the best kind of like vibe I'm getting. It's getting savaged right now, review wise. Simon Abrams from Roger Ebert gave it 0 out of 4 stars. He said it might be the worst movie of the year, not because it's unpleasant, cliched, and gory too, but because its filmmakers seem to have as little regard for their audience as they do for their craft. And some of the audience reviews are kind of the same vibe. Like one person is just like, "Dear Lord, what the hell did I just watch?" So, if anything though, I have a feeling that's going to make you, Will Ashton, want to see it.
Definitely not in theaters. I don't. I
Sure,
feel
sure.
like there's too much out right now that I want to see. No, I feel my no is going to be bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, what about Saccharine? This is one that might be good. This is the new film.
Saccharine.
Yeah, this is directed by Natalie Erica James, and the cast here includes Midori Francis. She's been in some like Netflix stuff. You might have seen her in. Madeline Madden. She's kind of similar. Daniela McDonald, who I don't know, and it was direct. And yeah, I said the director already.
I know Danielle McDonald. Yeah, she was just in If I Had Legs, I Kick You.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen that, but no, this is the. I think Natalie Erica Jones was the director of Relic, or at least she worked on. Let me double check that actually. Yeah, she directed that film, Relic. Do you remember that one? That was the one.
Yeah,
It was a COVID horror movie,
it was all right.
and the metaphor was kind of on the nose. All that.
Yeah, I remember some folks were really about it, and I was like, yeah, it was all right. She also did. It was like a
Apartment 7A.
prequel. Yeah, that was like a prequel to Rosemary's Baby or something.
Yeah. This one's just a couple years ago. It has what's her name, Julia Gardner in it, and that was like a big step down from Relic in terms of reception. But it looks like Saccharine is kind of like in between. People are like, all right, well, not a good Relic, but better than
Yeah,
her last film.
I don't know this one too well. Maybe closer to October, I'll check it out. I don't know too much about it at the moment, though,
Oh, yeah,
other
because you'll
than,
have a checklist of stuff to watch anyway. Yeah,
yeah,
like of your horror stuff.
I'm already making the list, so yeah, I'm
There you go.
getting stuff ready.
All right, this next film, I know you've heard of this one, In the Gray. This is that new film, the new Guy Ritchie film. Jake Gyllenhaal, Henry Cavill, Isaac Gonzalez. Just absolutely amazing to me. New Guy Ritchie film just kinda came and freaking went, and,
I
like,
mean,
I barely heard anything about it.
I feel like most of his movies recently have kind of come and gone
That's true, I
post,
guess.
at least post Wrath of Man, maybe arguably post Aladdin. Yeah, because I haven't seen anything he's done since Wrath of Man, which I did like, and I think you reviewed it with somebody else. I don't think I
I
saw it
think
when
we
you
talked
saw
about
it,
it on the
but
show. Oh, you're talking about I may have reviewed it with somebody else on
I
this
think
show.
because I think I saw it after you reviewed it.
I see. Yeah, yeah, we never talked about The Gentleman. I think you talked about The Gentleman, though,
Yeah, that one.
on yeah.
Yeah, that was like pre-COVID, like just like the month or two before COVID, I think.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was, like, January 2020, wasn't it? So then Wrath of Man would have
Yeah,
been after that.
you're right. Yeah, because he did Operation something or another with Jason Statham. He did Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
He did that movie, The Covenant, which
The
actually was
Covenant.
pretty well received. I never saw it, but that was his last thing with Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, I don't know. I just haven't really seen his most recent stuff, and I can't imagine I'll end up seeing In the Gray either because I heard it's one of his weaker efforts. So
Yeah, reviews haven't been good for that one, to be sure. William Bibiani said it's a one-way ticket to Dullsville. Population, this poor, poor cast. So sad. But hey, who knows? Maybe it has great audience ratings, so could just be one of those disconnects. All right, this next one, I know you want to see this. Is God Is.
yeah, I do want to see this. Yeah, I mean, for as goofy as the title is, maybe it makes more sense in the film. I've heard
It
very good
does.
things. It
It's a
doesn't. Okay.
baffling title.
Well, I know it's what the play was called, so I guess they were just going off of that. But I don't know if the play was well known enough that they had to keep the title. But yeah, I mean, this one looks really fun. I've heard very good things. I might check this one out tomorrow. It looks really fun. I've heard pretty much unanimously good things, and I might have a chance to see it tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. So I watched it. I think I'm a little bit more mixed on the film than I know some critics are calling this like unequivocally the best of the year or one of the best movies of the year. I think it works really well. It has a killer third act. I found the kind of middle part of it to be really a drag, and I felt the length of it a little bit too much. The title is a little bit weird. There's a lot that the title is like trying to like imply. You have to read so much into it. I don't think it's very elegant, to be honest. And I the best thing I can say about this movie, and I hope you and I talk about it at some point in more detail, is that there's like this underlying question of like if God created everything, and then like what does that make your mother, right? In the movie, they call their mother God, and like there's stuff going on there that I think is like kind of fascinating. Also, my goodness, the performances in this incredible. I think one of them, like one of the sisters, is in I Love Boosters and was in I'm a Virgo, I want to say.
Oh, okay.
And I forget her name, but she phenomenal. Both of the sisters are just really good in this. And then Sterling K. Brown, oh my God,
Yeah,
like
he looked cool in it.
truly,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it makes his character in Waves look like freaking Santa Claus. I'll tell you that much. Okay,
I mean, is it pretty inspired by Kill Bill? It looks like it is.
it's got a lot of Kill Bill DNA and energy to it, which of course is to say Kill Bill has the DNA of like 30 movies
Well,
itself.
sure.
So
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, yeah.
What about The Wizard of Kremlin?
Oh yeah, I wanted to see this. This was a Oliver Assayas or Azales.
Oliver Assayas, yeah, with
Assayas, yeah.
Paul Dano, Jude Law, Alicia Vikander, Jeffrey White, Tom Sturridge. I mean, what a cast!
This one kind of came and went for me. I think it was in theaters for like a little less than a week. It was one of those I was like curious about, but didn't make the time for it. I was kind of hoping it would be in theaters longer than it was, and it wasn't. I've heard kind of mixed things about it, but I am curious to see it. I don't know. I mean, I saw the trailer before something or another that I saw, and I do think it's funny that it looks like Jude Law is not at all trying to do a Russian accent. It just looks like he's just doing like a British Putin, which is kind of funny to me, but I don't know. Maybe it works better that way than if he tried to do some, thick, phony accent. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I want to see it. I unfortunately, like I said, I missed the boat on seeing it theatrically, but hopefully somewhere later down the road this year, I'll get a chance to check it out.
All right, this next one, I did have a chance to see it at a screening and I missed it. And if I see this, it's going to be like another kind of maybe similar to Wizard of Kremlin, like Curiosity on TV or something. But Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a soft spot for Mortal Kombat, the game. That might surprise you because I'm not a video game guy, but
I know.
I do enjoy the game. I haven't played it a ton, but I have played it, and I do think it's a lot of fun. And I have a soft spot for martial arts films as well. I feel like they never really cracked the nut on the Mortal Kombat movie. Like, I know some people enjoy the Paul W.S. Anderson one. I've seen it twice. I find it mostly kind of boring and cheesy in like bad ways. I thought the most recent one that this is a sequel to was boring without the cheese.
About it.
Yeah, it was like that one was boring without the cheese factor. So
I don't remember a thing about it. Yeah.
It was all like build up, I remember. It was like building up to the tournament. And it was like that like joke that people make about like streaming shows, or if you had a show called like Surf Dracula in the 80s, it would just be, Surf Dracula surfing every week. And then streaming, it's like the first season is building up to him getting the surfboard. And I feel like Mortal Kombat is just like the build up to the second movie, which is fine, but it's like, I would rather you just get to the fights now. That's what we're here for. I don't care about these characters. And also, it's like, they didn't even really focus on the cool characters that much in the first movie. But this one, I think, has like Johnny Cage, and it's like actually a little bit more about the fighting. So I don't know. I'm not rush to see it. The general vibe seems to be like it's better than the first one, but it's not like a massive improvement. It's more of a slight improvement, which is kind of what I expected. So I'll probably see it on HBO Max at some point if I get around to it. I don't feel like I need to rush to a theater to see this one either.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever watch this. I'm just saying, I don't know. Part of it for me is I feel like Carl Urban as Johnny Cage doesn't seem to make sense to me. I'll withhold judgment,
I
but
mean,
maybe part of it is like I don't know. We just saw the Boys finale. I mean, well, I did, you didn't, but
right.
like it's just weird. It just he just doesn't
He's
seem to fit the part to me.
he's just too old for the part at this point.
Yes.
Like, I mean, you need like a Glenn Howerton or something for Johnny Cage at this point.
You like Glenn Powell?
Sorry. No, yeah, sorry. Glenn Powell. Glenn Howerton would be funny though, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Glenn
sure.
Powell,
I'm open to it.
but Glenn, yeah, sorry, I meant Glenn Powell.
Okay, let's see. Got a couple more here. Silent Friend.
I do want to see this. It's coming to our theater pretty soon, so I will be seeing it hopefully within like a week or so.
Yeah, yeah. For folks who don't know, this is a new film from Iriko and Yeti, and it stars what's her name?
Leah
I
Sadu?
forget- Yes, thank you. I don't know why I couldn't remember her name there. Tony Leung is in this as well. For those of you who are like Tony Leung, like, all right, fine, Shang-Chi. Like, I think that's
Well,
like the most franchise. He's a legend, but like I'm just saying, I feel like
I mean, yeah, I just saw Happy Together for the first time like a month or so ago. Yeah, I'm all about him. I think he's, just such a fantastic leading man and yeah, this looks like a more pensive role for him, an older, kind of sadder role for him, which I'm all for. I think he can nail it. I've heard a lot of great things about this movie too. So the only thing that makes me a little nervous is it looks like Leah Sadu is like literally phoning in her performance. I don't mean that she's giving a bad performance. I mean like I think her performance is primarily like fake TED Talks and like Zoom calls. So like I'm like okay, I was kind of hoping she was like an actual present part of the film, but maybe she's so busy. I think she has like 7 films at the Cannes Film Festival this year. So I think she's just one of those in-demand actresses. Maybe they could only get her through Skype, or maybe that's all the role called for her. But that was the one part of the trailer where I was like, I kind of wish there was more. And maybe there is. I haven't seen the film.
one of these days, though, since I brought up Tony Leung, it'd be so cool if we could have a conversation like we did a classic review of In the Mood for Love, because we've never talked about it on the show
Sure, yeah.
before. And it's like one of the
The
all-time great movies.
the sexiest PG rated film ever made. You can put
But yeah, Silent
that.
Friend. I'm interested in Silent Friend. It has really good reviews.
You can put that in the box.
This next movie, I feel like is a fever dream. I don't understand. I know the plot of this movie, and ever since I first heard about it, I thought it was a joke. It's not a joke. Sheep detectives. Am I losing my mind, Will Ashton? This is like getting raves. Everyone loves this. Everyone's watching this. To me, it looks ridiculous. Like, what's happening? Why?
Well,
I'm just missing the boat. I don't get it.
well, the director of it is like an
Kyle Balda.
Illumination guy, but the screenwriter is what's his face from Chernobyl?
Craig
Dan,
Mason.
yeah, Craig Mason. Yeah, that's right. Uh, I don't know. I've heard, like you said, I've heard it's very sweet. I heard people are crying for it. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't like to use this term, but it kind of looks like a baby movie to me. Like, it's like, I don't know. I mean, it looks.
Like Babe, Pig in the City kind of stuff, or
No,
which
I just
I'd
mean
be open
like,
to.
I don't know, not to like compare apples to oranges, but like I have Shaun the Sheep at home. It's like I don't really know what this movie's doing necessarily, but I will see it just based on the reviews. Like I don't know if I'll see it theatrically. Maybe it just kind of depends on how long it's going to stay in theaters for. Like you said, or like we were talking about earlier, I feel like Is God Is, I Love Boosters. Those are things I kind of want to prioritize theatrically. I think I've already made plans to see Backrooms later this week or month or whatever. So I feel like there are things I'll see before I get to Sheep Detective, but it was on my radar before. It's now forcefully on my radar. I'll see at some point.
For folks who don't know, this stars Hugh Jackman, Nicholas Braun, Emma Thompson, and mainly centers around a bunch of sheep that are trying to figure out who murdered their shepherd. That's all I'm going to say. And that's all I can say, to be honest with you.
I mean, I think it's based on a book, right?
I think you're based on a book, and that book is called The Bible.
Whoa. Whoa.
All right, Billie Eilish, Hit Me Hard and Soft, the tour live in 3D.
I've seen it. I've written about it. I thought it was pretty good.
I love Billie Eilish. I'm absolutely going to watch this. Billie Eilish, I think,
Yeah.
is just one of the great artists in general right now. And I'm in. I'll buy tickets.
I think you might be the biggest fan of the album Hit Me Hard and Soft that I know.
I mean, I still listen to half the songs on pretty heavy rotation. For folks who don't know too, the past few months, I've been doing a lot more music coverage for in between drafts than I used to. So I've been reviewing a new album every week, and then sometimes I do reviews of singles. And this latest one I did Bleachers. I haven't done a Billie Eilish song yet, but I did like an Olivia Rodrigo song, and yeah, it's just, I don't just talk about movies, sometimes music too. But I feel like Will doesn't like my music opinions.
I didn't say that. I just don't know as much about music. I've tried to write about music and stuff. I don't have that skill set. I feel like I
I
just kind
could
of
see
like
you. I could see you liking it after like getting your training wheels off. I feel like you'd cruise down that hill,
I'd
in my
be
opinion.
like what's his face from Almost Famous?
Yeah, there. You kind of look like him, to be honest.
What Philip Seymour Hoffman?
No, no, I was talking about the kid in Almost Famous, but
Oh, you're talking about
you're
what's his
talking
face?
about.
Yeah. Uh,
Maybe that too. I don't know. I don't know. All right, well, Ashton, let's talk about a movie though. Let's actually review a film, and I want to start with a movie called Obsession.
well,
And go
I
ahead.
will start by asking you if you've seen Milk and Cereal, Curry Barker's previous film.
No, was it a short film?
No, it's a feature. It's an hour long, so it's somewhere between a short and a feature. But I
I
consider
I've
that
seen his
his.
YouTube stuff, and I've seen some of his clips on like Instagram and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, because this is Milk and Cereal was a YouTube exclusive. It was like kind of the stepping stone between this and the YouTube stuff and Obsession.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I love to see it. You kind of beat me to the punch here. I was gonna say there are a lot of movies called Obsession. There's one from 1976, the Brian De Palma film
Right? Yeah.
with Cliff
Schrader.
Robinson. Yeah, there's also a 1949 film, although in the US, I think they called it The Hidden Room. And then there's a TV series called Obsession. There was a 2009 Idris Elba thriller with Beyonce,
Oh, Obsessed.
that
Yeah.
Ali Larter.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of obsessions.
They're
Hollywood's obsessed
yeah.
with the word obsession.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
There you go. But yeah, this is a supernatural horror film. It not only was it directed by Curry Barker, it was also written and edited by the guy. So he really had his hands in it. The film follows a guy named Bear. He's played by Michael Johnson, a music store employee who finds himself with a little bit of a predicament. He's in the friend zone. He really likes this girl, one of his childhood friends. Her name is Nikki. She's played by Indy Navarrete, who has been in like some TV stuff, and she was in like the Adventures of Superman, I think, like a CW show. This is a huge breakout role for her. But then also we have some folks like Cooper Tomlinson, who does a lot of stuff with Curry Barker. I think they like live together or used to live together.
Yeah, he's the like co-guy for their YouTube channel. That's a bad idea. He was a co-star, and I think he was like the cinematographer or the credited cinematographer for Milk and Cereal. Yeah, he's like his main collaborator.
Yeah, he's a real talent to be sure. Megan Lawless also in this, not as well known. Andy Richter is in this kind of for probably as like a favor to the. He doesn't do much, but he's here. He's having fun. Small cast, even smaller budgets. Apparently, reportedly, this cost somewhere between $750,000 to $1 million. However, this thing is a huge success. We're looking at $82 million. This was picked up. Blumhouse is one of the production companies that kind of came in a little bit later, but Focus Features
Mm-hmm.
distributed this one in the US. Huge, huge win for them. This premiered at TIFF last September, and then it hit release this past May. And I remember when I first saw the trailer for this, I had a feeling. I was like, this thing's gonna blow up. And I was like, this is gonna do better. I think this is gonna have more of an impact than Talk to Me, which it's getting compared to a lot. Honestly, like it has been a while since a horror movie like this, I think, has kind of broken through the noise as much as this has. Like this movie, great marketing campaign. Really, like it's coming at a really good time because there are a lot of people who are just not interested in Mandalorian, and this is its second week, and it's still doing really good box office for Memorial Day weekend, especially compared to Mandalorian. And
Oh yeah.
this is one of those rare times too where like I know a lot of people keep asking me about this movie. They're like, "Have you seen this movie?" Or like the
Mm-hmm.
folks who are watching it are talking about it. They're like, "Oh, I like that movie. I want to see it again." Even the folks who are like, "Oh, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I had a really good time. It was a fun horror movie, a good experience with the crowd." That's been my impression. Obviously, I have my own echo chamber bubble, whatever you want to call it. I'm curious if before we get into what the film's about, if you've had kind of a similar impression of the reception.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, to my surprise, in a good way, has really kind of exceeded how big of a pop culture impact it was going to have. Because I was just excited. Like a year or so ago, I watched Milk and Cereal just kind of on a whim for my October marathon. I was like, "Whoa, this is a really cool debut." I mean, it's not flawless, but like it was like a really strong, like extremely modest budget film. I think that movie cost like $800, and you could just see that guy Curry Baker also stars in that film, He is. I don't believe he's in this film, but he might have a voice role. I'm not 100% sure, but he might be a prominent voice role in this. I never got confirmation on that,
But for,
but
like, the jingle or
no, for the guy on the call line. That's like the.
okay,
I think that might be him. I don't know. I never got confirmation on that.
that makes sense.
Like the main guy that's in like the basis for the teaser.
Well, I'm curious, have you been seeing? Because I've been seeing the meme of, like, when, Freaky Nikki is, like, doing the, "No,
Mhm.
no, 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 don't do that." Like, I am seeing that everywhere. It's getting memed, and then, like, you could say it's my algorithm, right? But, like, I'm seeing it on, like, videos and stuff that are getting, like, hundreds of thousands of likes. So it does seem to be, like, it's having a little bit of play. People are
Yeah,
memeing it.
I mean, what was exciting, I think, watching Milk and Cereal was like, okay, here's a guy who's very in touch, like a young guy, a very young guy who is in touch with like a younger sensibility, like what kind of makes the generation below us, Gen Z, kind of tick, and was able to transfer like what makes like a successful YouTube channel. Cause he was like a comedy guy before he went into horror, which I mean, we've talked multiple times, comedy, horror. I mean, we see it with Zach Kreger and Jordan Peele and all this stuff. Like, it's comedy and horror are very akin to one another. And I think that's no happenstance as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I mean, I was just really excited just based on that. And then hearing that got such a warm response out of TIFF. And then I think Focus bought it for like some whopping like $20 million or something, which considering what the movie has made and is continuing to make is honestly kind of chump change. This is like probably maybe the most profitable horror movie since like the first Paranormal Activity or something. It seems like it's kind of getting up to those numbers. It seems like at this point, yeah. I mean, it's easily going to be the most successful Focus Features film.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
which
so surprising too that they're the ones who got their hands on this. Because I mean, with Blumhouse, usually it's Universal. I don't think Universal had faith in this, right, by comparison. I don't know for sure, but,
yeah, I don't know.
Universal is distributing it internationally, I should say.
I mean, Focus Features, yeah, is a division of Universal. I'm not quite sure why they didn't feel confident enough. Maybe it's too small of a film for them to like want to put it on their main banner or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it did. So I mentioned TIFF, but, it was the Midnight Madness, for TIFF. It wasn't like this thing had any kind of, awards energy. Let's not
I
get too
mean,
hasty, but yeah.
well, I'm already seeing people try to do like a Wars buzz for this, like with
No.
like weapons,
No,
which
no, no,
yeah,
no, no, don't do that.
right. Which is like one of those things where it's like, guys, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but calm down.
Yeah, exactly. But all right, let's talk about what this movie is actually about. So anyway, I kind of mentioned a little bit that the main guy, his name is Baron, but they call him Bear, which I didn't love that they named him that because early on at least I kept thinking of Bear, because they call him that Carmi but he has like 10 nicknames I guess in that show. Regardless, Bear has romantic feelings for Nikki, and he's been kind of like practicing. How is he going to tell her how he feels? And their group of friends like work in this music store, and that's like another thing that I think Curry Barker gets about Gen Z, that you do kind of have to use the uncanny stuff that doesn't quite make sense to kind of hook Gen Z watchers, which is like, what music store are people wearing uniforms and there's like multiple employees and they're all in their early 20s and they're all friends? Like nothing about it
I
rings as
mean,
true or
yeah,
believable, but it works because sure,
I
it's fun.
I really love. There's like a moment where they're like, oh, "Man, you should. I'm glad you were at work today. It was crazy." And it's like, when was it crazy ever in this store?
Yeah, in the last 35 years.
Right.
And you get no sense that they any of them like music or know a lot about music. But again, this movie's energy is like, who cares? No one cares. Anyway, so within this group of friends, there's also Ian, who is played by Cooper Tomlinson, and he's the one who's kind of like trying to coach Bear through this. Be like, you gotta be a toxic guy. You have to be you can't do this emotional nonsense. You have to just tell her how you feel, blah blah blah. But Bear is kind of stuck. He doesn't know how to do it. He goes to this mystic shop. It's actually a real place called the Green Man in LA. I saw a video about this where it's legitimate. Like they filmed inside the shop and they didn't change that much. And you can even see like where they put the One Wish Willow there. But regardless, yeah, there's this product called One Wish Willow. It's like this novelty toy that says you open it up, it plays a little jingle, and then you make a wish once you break it. And one thing that Curry Barker has actually said is that as you listen, every time it gets used in the movie by somebody, it's a different jingle. which apparently not a lot of people had noticed, and I was like, "I didn't notice that." It's like this kinda like ding, 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 ding kinda thing. But anyway, so
And
Bear
I believe that was all I heard something about that was all public access music that was, like,
I could see that.
used on TikTok a lot.
Once again, just kinda like channeling, like, how do we do this on the cheap, but in a way that works, right? That kinda scrappy energy. So Bear kinda he's not able to do it. He's not able to tell Nikki how he feels, and so he uses the one wish willow. He kinda does it not really like, you don't get the impression he thinks it's gonna work. He just kind of, like, does it on a whim. It's like, "Whatever," just I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone else in the world. And the twist of the movie is that it actually works. Apparently, this toy works, and that's like the big what if of the film. And Nikki becomes extremely obsessed with him, and the movie kind of follows how that escalates to kind of both horrifying and hilarious lengths. So I really adored this movie. I just love the scrappiness of it. Like I said, like it's there's not that much going on. But there's one complaint that I have, like I love the practical effects here. I love how they're able to just find all of these ways to freak you out without like the classic jump scare. There's a little bit of like, whoa, maybe something's about to happen, but like it's all about shock value. It's all about this performance and just watching you really just hate the protagonist, like completely unlikable dude. And yet, the whole time I am just like horrified by the situation itself because like clearly like Nikki is the sympathetic one. And like what the movie's kind of doing on that level, the substance of like what it's trying to say is so fascinating to me. And that's one of the reasons I think people are like talking about it as much as they are, because this is almost like a Rorschach test for a certain kind of person who like if they watch this film and are like, yep, women sure do be like that. It's like it's such an easy way to kind of look at that person and like lose respect for them, in my opinion. And
Yeah, it's
I
like
appreciate it.
it's kind of a good first date movie in that respect because you can get some instant red flags if you get somebody and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know, maybe
Mhm.
date 2 is shouldn't happen."
Yeah, there you go. My complaint with this one, I don't know, like, I could nitpick this thing, I guess, but I've only seen it the once. I do wanna see it again, but, my only complaint is that I just feel like, maybe 10 more minutes. There's it felt like something was kinda missing for me closer to the end. I think the way it ends specifically works perfectly. I have no notes on the actual ending and how it goes, especially, like, there's, like, some bookending with something that involves a cat that I think is, like, really well done. But just in terms of, like, how we get from the 2nd act to the 3rd act, I think that there was just I don't know, there was something missing for me. I'm not sure what, and it's one of those complaints where I'm like, "You know what? I could be wrong, though." Maybe adding even more to it would have messed it up completely. I'm not entirely sure, but I will say that I felt that. I was feeling that in the moment. I was like, "Oh, one more turn? Oh, okay, okay." But that's like a whatever complaint, It's like, just a little bit more food, and I would be even more satisfied, I guess. But, yeah, Will, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff about this movie that I really like. There's stuff in this movie I didn't really like, and there's stuff I'm kind of in the middle about. I feel like I'm more muted compared to like other folks, but like not in like a disputive way. I'm just kind of like I didn't quite get that same experience, but there's stuff about it I really like and really respect. I think as you mentioned, I really like how much the movie doesn't let the main character off the hook. I like that this movie has a sort of like American Werewolf in London relationship to its main character where like constantly throughout the film, similar to American Werewolf in London, there's kind of just like, I don't know, dude, you should just kill yourself. Like, I don't know, like what's like he just like constantly makes the worst decisions and like never really he never understands why it's bad. Like he just doesn't get it. And he's constantly like either just by happenstance or like just kind of by whim is like thrown into this. And he's just like, I appreciate how much they make the character sort of like guileless and dumb in a way that is like engrossing to watch, but not sympathetic. I think that's like kind of the key to this film. And I think that's part of the reason why it works. And undeniably, I mean, everyone said this already. Is it India Neverett?
Indy Navarrete, I think is how you say her
Yeah,
name.
India.
She's, I think either Mexican or half Mexican, something like that.
Okay. Fantastic. I mean, everyone said already a incredible performance. Really, I think if anything, this movie, I understand why it doesn't focus more on her, but it's also kind of a detriment that the movie doesn't allow more of her interior life to come through because she gives such a compelling, nuanced performance. And I think undeniably the most effective and creepiest moments of the film are solely dedicated to her. There's like a phone call situation. There's a later sequence involving shadows that I think she just really the physicality and the emotionality that she brings to this role is outstanding, and I think if it's not for her performance, this movie, I don't know if it works. I mean,
I don't think it
it's
does.
yeah. I think what holds me back a little bit is that I feel like with all these YouTubers turned filmmakers, they all sort of like the Philippe or Philippi, whatever the guys that did
Yeah, talk to me, bring her
Talk to
back.
Me and Bring It Back. They're like Ari Aster-esque, and then obviously Chris Stuckman with Shelby Oaks is like M. Night Shyamalan-esque, and then I feel like Curry Barker is like Zach Kreger-esque. Like I don't feel like they've all kind of developed their own style quite yet. And I feel like that might come for all of them later. Well, maybe not Stuckman. I don't think that's happening. I'm sorry. But I think they're all just like emulating more than they're like kind of finding their own rhythms. And I feel like that's, I think, felt here more than maybe even the other two films. Well, at least more so than Talk to Me, which is a film I like as well, but I feel like I wasn't as keen on. Same with like Bring Her Back. Like, I feel like there's just something about them that is so kind of, and it even gets to the point where in this movie, there's a scene that feels like it's like directly copying a pivotal moment from Talk to Me, and then like there's a later scene that feels like it's directly copying from Smile. Like it does feel like there's something about it that feels very sort of, for lack of a better word, like commercial to it. Like even though it is like this very indie film, I think Curry Barker kind of knew how to sell it, and that's a compliment to
Yeah.
him as a businessman. But I feel like that kind of holds the film back in certain respects. Like I think now that he has this sort of carte blanche, I think that he's going to have, he already has like his next film in the can, and he's given the keys to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think he's really going to develop into this really fascinating filmmaker, and I think he's going to be emboldened to kind of take more risk and stuff like that. This movie, I feel like I'm of the mind that's like more nifty than like fully realized, but like I really am impressed with what it's able to pull off on such a short budget, how nice it looks for like a small budget film like this. Like I was telling you off the air, like you see a movie like this and you hear it's like $75,000 to make. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. And then you hear Shelby Oaks costs like $1 million, $2 million, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like one of those things where it's like other YouTubers, like they make the movies and like, not to say that they misuse or don't use their budgets well, but it's like you see like the budget on screen. And this movie, it looks like 3 times its budget. Like he really is an economical filmmaker. Obviously, that was the case with Milk and Cereal to an extreme degree. I just feel like he has really exciting stuff on the way. I just feel like this movie, you see the potential there. I just don't think it's his, like, I don't see him fully accomplished yet. I feel it's like a stepping stone to another stepping stone.
Yeah, well, I think I both agree with you and disagree with you then, because like where we agree is that to me this is, I think nifty is a good word. To me, it's like it's just it's a really good appetizer, like an hors d'oeuvre. It's not a meal, but it's like a super memorable and satisfying appetizer. And it does kind of like cue me up for like, man, I want to see what this guy does next. I know they're
Right.
doing like an anthology. He wants to do an anthology with the One Wish Willows, which I think is a great idea.
Sure, yeah.
He could definitely make something. He could make hay out of that. I think in terms of like, I did want to bring up like the Nikki stuff, and I think you were alluding to like that's kind of the point, that her interior life is sort of under-centered, because like that's the point, right? Like the horror is that like the wish turns her into this person who doesn't have interiority. It's been hijacked, and you know, I kind of like that he withholds from the audience more of like who she is, because then it stops feeling like it's sad or it's sympathetic because we know her that well. I like that we don't know her that well, because it almost implies that like Bear never really knew her, and that's like
Oh
why
yeah,
he's not able to just kind of like connect with her in a real
100%.
way.
Yeah.
So that it works for me, even though like I do have some of the same anxiety I think you do, which is like I do want to know more about this person, especially because the performance is so good that there is something kind of unsettling about that. So I'm kind of of two minds of it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all, like, I think he's purposeful with what he's doing. So that's why, like, my criticisms have a certain reserve to them in the sense of, like, I think the way that the opening scene plays out, where he's giving this confession, and it's just this sort of anonymous girl that he's actually giving it to, proves that, like, there's a point. Like, who Bear is lusting over is not an actual person, it's an idea of a person. And I think the idea of, like, that we don't really know who this woman is in a full sense outside of just, like, kind of like little, like, we know enough to know that she's become a different person, but not enough to like know who she really is outside of just like a generality. And obviously I think there's something to be said about like this movie's kind of one of several films of late that's kind of taken down the like manic pixie dream girl-esque, like the idea, infatuation of like a quirky kind of woman that like men aren't really fully getting to know in a personal sense, but just like they want to be like infatuated and loved It's in an unreal sense. And I think this is like kind of a clever, like we didn't even mention the kind of the monkey paw aspect of it. I think, it's a clever concept. I think it's economical and nifty, like I said, and in how it's produced. But as you're kind of alluding to, I think it's just like, I don't know. You said it's too long. I think, or you said it's too short. I think it's a little too long. Like, I think it's like a shorter version of this is snappier and kind of has, I don't know. I think less these problems become prominent if it's like kind of shorter and recognizes that it's a little more contained. But I don't know. I mean, I think like you were saying, like I think it has things that it wants to say. I don't think it's fully realized in that perspective, but like it is accomplished for what it's doing and recognizes that it's like not able to do everything for a $75,000 budget film. But
Well,
yeah,
okay. I think then so to your point then about maybe it feels a little too long to you. I think that's then why I find the way you're saying it emulates Kreger too much a little confusing to me because then I'm looking at it like, all right, obviously I was thinking of Kreger plenty during this and but in a very specific way. And I think that the differences are pretty steep to me. And I don't agree that this feels like, it's emulating Kreger more than it has its own kind of rhythm or pulse. I think that what this movie is doing is a little bit different. Because when I think of Kreger horror, if I think of barbarians and weapons, those come from like these genre trapdoors where like the movie keeps revealing that actually, no, you're in a different movie than you thought. That's kind of like what it is. And it's kind of like what makes those movies really fun. You never know what's going to happen next. Barker's thing here feels to me more it's like compressing things. It's really compressed. It's really tight. The premise is super simple, right? It's almost like a fable. Like Monkey's Paw, right? It's like a version of the Monkey's Paw. It's fable-like. You have a selfish wish. The consequences keep tightening until every single kind of like romanticizing or romantic impulse becomes this nightmare about consent and agency and all of that. And so I guess that's where I'm kind of like, well, you aren't getting exactly Kreger. You're not getting like the comic misdirection. And that's why like I wanted that extra layer, maybe not something like that we would see in a Kreger film, but just something to kind of like surprise us more. I think that's the thing that I was missing is that in the third turn, I think like some kind of like what you were watching, not that what you were watching isn't really what you were watching, but just something to complicate things a little bit more. It did feel a little bit tedious of like, he still isn't getting it or like first of all, he's an idiot and he's just doing stupid stuff. And that's part of it. I understand. But like I just felt like something was kind of missing in terms of misdirecting us or playing with audience expectations. But I do understand like it is trying to be hyper simple. And I agree that with a bigger budget, I mean, Barker could absolutely, produce a screenplay or really, bring about a vision that maybe does have like this just like really intricate storytelling that would be even more memorable, right? So I think that's kind of where you and I would find some middle ground.
I mean, yes, I think what you're saying is true as far as like the Kreger secret sauce. The idea that like what made Barbarian, and especially what made Weapons kind of more than what people expect them to be, is that they have kind of loftier ambitions, that they change tones without sacrificing the pacing or the storytelling. I think you do, though, see in the third act that shift to like really push the like kind of pungent humor in. And I think that's really where like the Kreger influence kind of comes to life, I think, is like you see more of the desire to kind of punctuate with the darker humor, to kind of play with expectations, to do a scene that you expect to be simply horror based and it turns into like kind of a darkly comedic moment. Yeah, I guess maybe as you're kind of alluding to, maybe it's just the fact that the second act kind of is a little bit more like focus on like amplifying and doing these sort of like crazy things with India Neverett's character to the point where it maybe undermines like how much a person would believably go along with this, to the point where it's like, yeah, something's wrong. Maybe that's kind of where the problem lies, is that like you get to stuff like the sandwich and you get to the stuff with like her doing something to a door, and it's kind of like, okay, like even the dumbest person alive would be like, yeah, it's a little weird. Maybe...
Well, yeah, and you have to sell it, right? And you have to like find, because you can do it, right? And the movie gestures at like why he's like, he just can't bring himself to, like but you have to fill in the blanks yourself a little bit too much. And I think like the movie could have done a little bit of a better job to really sell like this guy's stubbornness and the desperation, the patheticness of that. But yeah, I mean, we're not here to make a different movie for Kurt. I think he did a great job.
But I think, as you were kind of alluding to earlier on, there is something, it kind of reminded me of It Follows. Like at the beginning with like the music score, there's like this kind of like mystical otherworldliness that's really pungent and it follows. Like this idea that you don't really know what time it is and like what place it is. And this movie kind of dips its toes into that. Like there's like a lot of old tech, but there's also like clearly a lot of stuff for now. And like you said, like the idea of like 420 somethings are working in a music shop kind of feels 90s esque, but like they all feel very like modern coded in like the way they talk and think about relationships and stuff. But like the internet only kind of partially plays into the film, like just like him pining for her on Instagram. Like there's like interesting kind of stuff there that I don't know if that's like more like budgetary restrictions or like him kind of playing with like an
Like
otherworldly
finding his style.
atmosphere. Yeah. So I
Like,
think, yeah, I think
yeah.
as you're saying, like to me, this movie doesn't, I don't know. I guess where I push back against some folks is that it doesn't quite feel as fully realized as I think some of the reviews are making it seem. But it is a really exciting debut. And I think, or at least full theatrical debut.
Oh, yeah. Great movie to
And
watch for the crowd, folks. If you have the chance, please do. Especially while people are still, crowding to see it.
sure. I mean, it's definitely a good stepping stone, like I said, for him. I think his better work's ahead of him. I think, the stronger films are set to come. And I think he has really exciting stuff he wants to do and say as a filmmaker. I feel like for me, I'm more in the pretty good than good camp for this film. But like, yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think it's really strong. It has a tremendous lead performance from India Neverete. And I think it's exciting to see how much this is going to bolster her career and Curry Barker's career. And
Oh, yeah, both of them. Yeah,
yeah,
they have great stuff ahead of them. I think Indy's phone has probably been ringing off the hook. All right. We're running low on time, so we don't have time to go through all of our friends' reactions to the show. We usually like to go through what friends of the show have to say about the movie. We only have time for maybe we can go through a few, maybe some of our best friends. And not that it's a competition, but we do play favorites. Matt Serafini, best friend of the show, he really liked this one. He gave it a heart on Letterboxd, and he wrote, "Love a good, be careful what you wish for tale, and this one is lots of fun and also deeply unsettling. Outstanding performance from Indy Navarrete. I hope this launches a successful career for her." Great news, Matt. I think that is going to be the case for sure. Will Ashton saw the movie. You did not leave a review for it. Curious. I wonder why. Ryan Oliver did. Ryan Oliver, he wrote a bit of a more lengthy thing, but he gave it 4 stars and a heart. He said, "When I realized this wasn't going to be a particularly deep examination of fragile male ego and was going to be a mean-spirited feature-length Twilight Zone episode, I was able to lock into its wavelength. Barker executes a stellar tone that waffles between darkly hilarious and downright sinister, and I can't throw any superlative that hasn't already been thrown to Indy Navarrete as a manic pixie dream girl turned nightmarish star-making performance." I couldn't agree more with Ryan. I think that's a pretty fair shake. Corey Woodruff. I know you're a fan of Corey. Everybody likes Corey, especially you and me. The best friend of the show. He wrote, "J. Walter Weatherman stands up in the middle of a crowded theater, quote, and that's why you don't make wishes." Very fun, very fun. Corey's always going to throw down the references. Let's see if we got anybody else here before we move on. And again, normally we go through some more folks who we love and want to hear from. But Abiel Chessie, we gotta look at Abby's former co-host of the show. Abby gave it 4 stars and a heart as well, just like Ryan. She said, "Curry Barker gets." I can't cuss because of the restrictions. Curry Barker gets SHITTY young adults down better than maybe anyone I've ever seen. Would you agree with that from like the Milk and Cereal
sure.
that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, that movie, Milk and Cereal, it's like a kind of a takedown of like prank culture online. And so I think the fact that it went to YouTube, it kind of fits the vibe of what it's satirizing and what it kind of expounds upon. I was just going to say that I started reading Abiel Chessie's book, A Film for All Seasons, and I've been enjoying it a lot. So I recommend that.
Nice.
And I am hoping to finish it soon.
I need to pick that up myself, and we can talk about it on the show, maybe with Abby. We got to look
Oh,
at
I'd
Matt
love that, yeah.
Donato's. That'd be really fun. We have Matt Donato, of course, I think our oldest friend, podcasting friend on the show. He wrote, "Obsession should and will put Barker on the map as a horror filmmaker you need to watch. Thanks to fantastic turns by Michael Johnston and Indy Navarrete, you'll be addicted to this sour Valentine's Day counter-programming. The film plays on familiar romance and monkey's paw tropes, turning a wish against the wishy, but Barker's execution takes things to the next level. In the film's simplicity lies a chance to go for broke. Putting all efforts into the lengths, Nikki is willing to go for her beloved. With that focus and Barker's fearlessness, Obsession becomes one hell of a ride." He wrote a review for IGN, which you can check it out. And also, he did see this at TIFF, so he was one of the first to sing Obsession's praises, which is always great to see. Love that Matt Donato is always on the beat, and I love too that his and Matt Monagle's their outlets. Certified Forgotten is doing so well, and they continue to make awesome stuff there. So, quick plug for them. We love their work. Emma Sasick, Aunt Emma. We'll finish with her. One of our best friends. Emma gave it 3.5 stars the first time she saw it at TIFF. She also saw it for the Midnight Madness, and then she saw it again. Rewatched it in May and then gave it 4 stars. How fun! So let's read her updated review. She said, aside from Indy's performance and the insanely creepy ways she's shot in this film, one of my favorite moments is when Bear is reading a Reddit thread about One Wish Willows, and someone wrote, "My mom has been ugly all her life, and now she's gorgeous."
Yeah, that was
I
yeah,
missed that.
Oh, you missed that?
I didn't even
Oh,
see
it's
that
good.
one.
I'm glad
That's
you
great.
brought that up because I was gonna say that was like I know you couldn't do this in the theater, but I know you love to like pause movies and look at the screen. I saw
Mhm.
all those and I was trying to read them as fast as I could because I thought you were gonna be like hyper aware of them. That one, that one was awesome.
There's
Yeah, they,
there's a lot of good ones. I
yeah,
remember, yeah. And then Emma did do a full review on YouTube, or she did a YouTube one and a full review that she did back in September. So definitely
yeah,
check that out if you have the chance. She did it for Next Best Picture. Let's be clear.
yeah.
All
And
right,
also when you mentioned the anthology aspect of it, I was thinking about that comment. Funny enough, I was like, oh, that's actually one of the movies you could do. You get like a filmmaker, like in the world of Obsession, like somebody who does like an ugly duckling turn like beautiful woman. Like what's that film? I mean, not the most original concept, but definitely one you can play with in a fun way in this universe. So yeah.
there you go. Okay, let's quickly do Rotten Tomatoes. Well, what's your guess? What do you think the Rotten Tomatoes score is for this one? We have 219 reviews counted. One of them is mine, so you get a little bit of a hint there. Rotten Tomatoes. We have 219 reviews counted. What do you think?
Okay, so yeah, I haven't been spoiled on the Rotten Tomatoes. I was spoiled on Cinema Score, which I guess I can just blurt out right now. I know this guy like an A on Cinema Score because I
No.
got on
You
Cinema
got it
Score.
wrong. You got it spoiled and you got it wrong. The cinema score is A minus.
That's okay, A minus. Okay, I knew it was. They emailed me about it and were like, "Hey, this movie's gotten such a great response from Cinema Score," and I was like, "How did you find my email? You?"
I gave it to them. No.
But no, Rotten Tomatoes. Critic score, I think it's going to be lower than the audience score, but not by much. I think the critics are pretty much in line with this movie and the audience even more so. So I'm going to do both these back to back, I think, and see what happens. Critic score, I think, is 89%, and I think the audience score is 97%.
Not really. No. No,
Okay.
you're a bit off. Actually, funny enough, the critic score and the audience score are only 1 point different, and the critic score is 1 point higher
Oh, wow. Okay.
than the audience score. The critic score is 95%, certified fresh, of course. And then the popcorn meter, the audience score, that one is 94%. 5,000 plus verified ratings. Probably some incels probably got in there. Yeah, I think, and also I'm just kind of glancing at it. I think some people didn't like the gore, which like, all right, nerds.
And I don't know, maybe the buzz at this point is so high that I'll cut some
Sure.
people some slack. Maybe some people were like, "Yeah, maybe it was," because this is the type of film that I could definitely see. Like, if the expectations are put way too high,
Oh
like
yeah,
I could see someone being like, "Okay, like it's
danger.
cool," but like, yeah, it's not like anything crazy, I mean, but yeah, I think probably you're right about the first two estimations.
All right. Well, that'll do it for Obsession. Once again, hope folks check it out in theaters if they have the chance. Yeah, it sounds like we're both fans to some varying degree, but not too different. Definitely a fun time at the movies. Let's finish with a movie that's not exactly a fun time at the movies, but definitely a time, and that is Blue Heron. We haven't talked about this one too much. I mean, we talked about talking about it on the show in our last episode. But this is a new film written and directed by Sophy Romvari. She's known for doing a lot of short films. Very, very acclaimed short film director, actually. And a lot of her work has been semi-autobiographical, including this. This is her feature debut, I should say. The film is based on her own childhood and also partly based on a previous short film she did called Still Processing. It stars Aile Guven as Sasha. She's the 8-year-old daughter of a Hungarian immigrant family who relocate to Vancouver Island in the late 1990s, while their oldest son, Jeremy, who's played by Eric Bedus, displays increasingly dangerous behavioral issues in their new environment. We also have the rest of the cast here: Inringo Reti, we have Adam Tompa, Amy Zimmer, Liam Serg. Honestly, even for you and me who watch a lot of films, I don't know about you, but I didn't recognize a single person in this cast, which was very exciting.
I recognized Amy Zimmer, but that was it.
Well, yeah, okay. I am not familiar with her myself, but there, okay. But yeah, so very interesting film. This is coming to us from Janus Films, the legendary Janus Films. Like they've been making or distributing awesome films for a century, I think we can say.
Sure. I mean, this
Almost.
was another film. We didn't really plan it this way, but this was another, like, ironically, these are two films that were popping off at TIFF, and we're just catching up with them like 8
Yeah,
months later. Yeah, I
basically.
mean, yeah, this one was like the critical darling, and then the Obsession was like the big, finance acquisition
Yes.
thing, and then now they're coming out around the same time, and obviously, they're kind of becoming more of a conversation piece for the wide public because people can actually see them outside of Toronto. But yeah, we didn't really plan it that way. It's just kind of funny that it happened that way.
Yeah. And we should say Janus Films distributed in the US. Blue Fox Entertainment did it for Canada. This is more of a Canadian, Hungarian kind of production. That said, yeah, so this, as you're alluding to, did have a bit of a festival circuit. Its world premiere was technically at the 78th Locarno Film Festival last August. It did go to TIFF, I think was its Canadian premiere, which makes sense, of course. Canada, Toronto. It did plenty of film festivals. And I remember there was some conversation about like, hey, could we see it maybe being like an awards contender or something like that? But no, they ended up holding it. They held it for this kind of like late spring, early summer release, which is interesting because I mean, the critical reception has been off the charts. In terms of what the film is about in a little bit more detail, it's kind of like I don't want to say nonlinear because that gives an impression that isn't quite accurate, but it's a movie that plays with the idea of memory. Right. And what it's like to remember fragments of your childhood. I've been working on my kind of like written review of the film. It's just more of like an essay, my thoughts on it, and kind of just like digging into like what I think about this film works, what I think is a little complicated about this film in a way that's maybe interesting, but also a little, again, complicated. Like I don't fully know exactly what it is about this film that kind of unsettles me in a very specific way, but I will say I can totally understand the hype. I can totally understand why critics have been really flocking to this. I think we have great performances here, great child performance, to be sure. I think Jeremy in this is just, he's haunting in a very specific way, in a way that isn't like kind of easy to parse. But that said, I do think like I get the raves. I don't think the film fully works for me. I think it's really good, maybe even great. It's like a 7.5, 8 out of 10 kind of film for me. So I have plenty of nice things to say about it. I'll kick it off with this. I don't think the second half really works. I think the first half is fantastic, and the way it kind of slides into what it wants to do in the second half threw me off a lot in a way that really just it left kind of a bitter taste in my mouth. I don't like a lot of decisions made in that second half. And I think I'm a minority opinion on this. I also worry that, a lot of people will see the raves, they'll see the praises, the high scores and everything, and won't exactly give this movie a fair shake and will be frustrated by it because I do think the first half, which I love, is very meandering and it takes a while to kind of get some of its points across. Very rewarding in that way. But, it does kind of fit that bill of like, oh yeah, it's the boring art house indie that everybody loves, but it's not actually boring. It's just literary. It's very challenging. It demands a lot out of you. And if you're in the mood for that challenge, I mean, my goodness, the rewards are really, really steep. That said, what do you think, Will? Do you think I'm off my rocker?
No, I mean, the irony is that I feel like rating wise, I'm similar to you, but I feel much more positive in my assessment of the film. And I think that's partly because like I heard all the raves, and I knew this was one that like was a must see. Like everyone critically that saw it was like, you have to see this. It's incredible. The buzz didn't really let down. Even David Cronenberg, apparently the king of Canadian cinema, was like, putting his stamp on it, and it was like one of those films that I feel blessed that I saw the buzz, but I didn't really hear. Like I knew it had something to do with the past and memory, but I didn't really know the particulars about the plot or like what really went down. I didn't know enough about this filmmaker to like know about her personal history. I hadn't seen Still Processing, though I remember that was on, I think, the Criterion channel, and people were like complimenting it and logging it a couple years ago. It was like it was a short film I was like vaguely aware of but didn't know too much about. But yeah, I mean, watching this film without much context for where the story was going, I'm watching it and I'm like, is this going in like a we need to talk about Kevin direction?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
is this going in a After Sun direction? And this is very much,
I would say
and
After Sun.
yeah, I was gonna say this is very much an After Sun film. But the first half there's something really fascinating about there's an unsettling like, to me, this is much more unsettling than Obsession, and I'm not trying to pit the two films against each other, but to me, like, I felt like I was way more, like, on edge watching this movie than Obsession, just because I genuinely didn't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
because genuinely I didn't really know where it was gonna go. Like, Obsession, it's like the type of film where it's like, "Okay, I have an idea where this is gonna go." Like, I've seen enough horror
It's a
movies that
roller
I
coaster. You
right,
see where the roller coaster is gonna go. This is that
right.
dark ride where, like, yeah, there's some weird stuff happening, and you're
This
like,
is
"Wait, am I about to hit a wall? What?"
right. This is a journey into the soul, and you don't really know where those go exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really been interesting to see like After Sun, this movie, to an extent, Minari have been like autobiographical films by way of therapy. And I don't mean therapy in like a bad derogatory sort of way. I just mean like the filmmakers are clearly working through something, making these movies, and they're using it in the interest of art. And I think that's something very progressive and beautiful in its own way. And I think in certain ways, I think this movie, while I did like After Sun, I remember like the buzz for that film was very similar to this film. I think this movie kind of works a little bit better for me than After Sun because of the second half. And that's why I find it kind of fascinating that the second half is the kind of dip for you, because as much as I
Yeah.
did
I
find
totally
the
disagree.
first,
I think After Sun is so much better than this.
I think what made this one work a little bit more for me is because with After Sun, once you get the kind of, and I'm not trying to spoil anything or give away too much for either film, but there is a kind of turning point where you focus more on a different time period than what's initially portrayed in both films. And they kind of cut back in and out with After Sun, and it has kind of like that feeling of memory, but doesn't really expound much upon the like what happens after. You're just kind of watching a character come to terms with this moment in their past they didn't really process at the time, and similar kind of relationships happening with this film. And there is something to be said about like it's more explicit with this film, which might make it more of a deterrent for people who like more the ambiguity of After Sun. But I found the direction in which this movie took a relationship with memory and placing a presence of like a modern angle, but like using that to have a sort of dialogue that can't really be found in a literal sense, and using this very kind of cinematic and moving way to be more affecting than I think it was for After Sun. And I can see why After Sun, and I think it's a good film in its own right, and I think it's effective in its own right. But I guess for me, something about the way this movie has that dialogue and has that correspondence with the parent that wasn't something that could happen in a literal sense, it only can happen in a cinematic sense, but doesn't feel self-aggrandizing. It doesn't really feel like it's like trying to put too neat of a bow on it. It's actually trying to be exploitative and like searching and yearning. To me, that felt way more rewarding and affecting at the end of the day. And I can see why maybe that's not the case for you and for other folks, but I don't know. It hit me.
Yeah, yeah, and for one thing, I am thrilled, that we have this movie and we have After Sun, because I do think they accomplish different things in different ways, but are kind of like reaching for the same sort of catharsis. So it's nice that both films exist, because I think that, yeah, I think there's a case to be made that for some people, After Sun is going to be the better film. For some people, this is going to be the better one, right? And to be super clear, I don't think like these movies should be like competing against each other, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's not like
For sure.
a competition. I think it's kind of undeniable. It's hard to not compare the two, I think.
Right, and then I think, like, of course, Romvari has been doing this for a long time, so, like, she has her own style, her own I mean, what I like about Romvari as a director specifically, I think that she has such a real ear, she has a real eye for detail, she has a real command of, like, just creating an emotional atmosphere very easily, and I think that I mean, again, I think the first half is where I find the praise really deserving. I think for me, I worry that the critical response is maybe overcorrected a bit for the movie's delicacy. I think that a lot of people are treating how this movie uses restraint as something that's being kind of like profound just because it's fragmenting. And I'm not totally bought on like the insight of that. To me, it doesn't totally feel like it's connecting. So like on the one hand, the movie is trying to give this like here's what memory feels like. And then it's trying to tie that into and here's why you grieve things. It's like this organizing theory of grief. And I guess where I struggle is that I think that those two things don't really come together because of the second half, at least for me. And I think the response I'm seeing is that like, oh my God, the way this movie treats memory and grief, and I'm like, maybe, but I don't see how that connects into the thesis of the film, right? And I think that's not really where the movie is strongest for me. I think where the movie is strongest is just its observational language. You know how it uses like these details, like the Game Boy, the trampoline, the lawnmower. Like it uses a lot of long lens, to kind of like portray the distance in Sasha's childhood. I mean, that stuff works so great for me. There's a moment
I mean,
where her mom is like peeling a potato, and it's probably my favorite part of the movie.
which I think might be a reference to Janine Dillman. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if
mean, it
yeah.
reminds me of Gene Dealman a lot, and also I was thinking of, what's it, the when, Rooney Mara eats the pie in Ghost Story.
Oh, yeah, I could see that, yeah.
It's kinda similar to that.
Just because, like, they focus so intently on the, like, just matter-of-factness of it, you mean?
Right. And
Okay,
then Gene Dealman, of course, is like it's like the ultimate, movie about domestic
sure.
fiction and how
Right.
all that works and like the generational passing of like these like little rituals. And, that was one thing I did think connected quite nicely into the second half where we experience adult Sasha and what her life is like and how, those things that she learned from her mother
Yeah.
translate into her contemporary life. That stuff works for me great because it's not forced, and I do think though, like when the movie shifts into this like documentary investigation, it starts like framing its own mystery in these ways that are just kind of like, let's talk about it. Let's get on a Zoom call and like there's social media searches and interviews and it starts getting kind of like meta. And I think it flattens a lot of the movie's ambiguity. I think it takes this idea of like grief and confusion of like, why was this happening? Like, there's this traumatic thing that happened when I was a kid. I didn't fully understand it when I was a kid. Now that I'm an adult, I'm going to figure it out and it's going to become a research project. And I just don't think the movie sells it. I think it seems elegant to me on paper, but like seeing it happen just flattened all of that emotional goodwill that I had. And then it pivots into this other thing where it's like you're supposed to feel these big emotions. And I don't know, I thought it felt a little heavy handed, in a way
I could
that
see
I
that.
I didn't think really meshed for me.
Well, I mean, that's kind of where and that's what's fascinating about dissecting film is this is where we get into competency versus emotionality, I guess, which is to say that, like, I think you would say, by and large, this is an extremely competent film. It just doesn't hit the emotional beats that you're hoping for by the end. And for me, I guess it is competent and it does hit those emotional beats. And I guess the reason why is because when you have a movie like After Sun, that's strictly Charlotte. I apologize. I can't remember her name, the filmmaker of that film. But that is a film strictly about the relationship of memory in a past and present sense, like the way we
Film are you
feel
talking about?
with After Sun.
Oh, I don't remember the director's name either, but I'll look it up.
Okay. But that's a movie that's strictly about the relationship, and not strictly, I should say, but like more specifically about the relationship between how we process things at the time versus how we feel about them later. Whereas this movie is from a documentarian, or at least a former documentarian, and there is a very literal sort of thing with documentaries, and they can be, figurative, they can be, ambiguous in certain ways. But I think the relationship that this filmmaker has to her past is not the same that the relationship or not the same that the filmmaker of After Sun has to her past in the sense of like, I think this movie wants to have a more direct answer to those things. It wants to be more kind of exact and like what kind of went down. And I think what I find kind of haunting about the ending of the film without giving too much away is that I don't really think that explanation is cathartic. I don't think it's something that comes with like the resolution that she wants it to have. And maybe that comes down to how I perceive the film versus how because like even though I think this movie itself is a cathartic experience in terms of how it was made, I don't think what this character experiences is supposed to be like a sort of like unburdening. And it's about that relationship between like how we process things both in the sense of like how we feel about them, but also like even when we get the more direct literal answers, like how does that leave you in an emotional sense? And I think to me that's more challenging and then that's more kind of haunting because like I don't know, like just knowing the facts doesn't really give you the answers in an emotional way. It can give you them in a literal, like historical way, but like it doesn't heal that wound, it's still gonna be there. It's still something that's absent. And I think that I don't know, to me, and I guess this kind of comes down to like if that works for you or not, but to me that I that's felt. Like I think that's something that's haunting. Even more so than what's being explored in After Sun. Maybe I just need to rewatch After Sun. I've only seen it the one time, but for me, that's why I find the second half of the film to be kind of more devastating than you, I guess.
Yeah, So Charlotte Wells directed After Sun. So
That's correct.
she
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
made anything since. Yeah, and again, I think that I guess where I differ, and I think that's a very valid take. I think that that idea of like, yeah, the details aren't gonna. I feel like I've seen that before. I feel like that idea of like you're not gonna get the answers. I totally understand that, but something about it just didn't really hit me. I guess because I felt like it already because like After Sun was like that too. It was elliptical. It withheld a lot of explanation, but you kind of get more of the aftermath, no pun intended, of like she already has kind of like investigated and has gotten like the literal answers. But I felt like the movie kind of like focused more on the dread and the gaps. It felt a little bit more, I don't know, cohesive in that way. Right. And to me, it felt like the gaps in After Sun were more beautiful to me. They felt more kind of like curated. And I guess with Jeremy, it's like he is unknowable. He is this unknowable entity in the film. And it's a wound. It's something that clearly, like, it's this gaping wound that Sasha, like, carries with her. And I like that it doesn't try to diagnose it. I like that it doesn't just try to explain everything, right? I mean, that would have been a terrible thing. I just don't think it was all that deep in terms of how it like kind of reckons with that lack of catharsis, I guess. But again, it's just my own take. There were plenty of other people who had takes on this film. So I guess because we are low on time, but I mean, it sounds like we both appreciate this movie a lot. We both are like, heck yeah. Makes perfect sense why it's been such a critical darling. And I think it's telling that, you and I can have a super fun and insightful conversation about the little nuances of this one and what makes it tick in a way that, yeah, we couldn't talk about this with obsession, obviously. So, yeah, I think it's a win in that respect alone.
Yeah, I mean, nothing more fun than diving into family trauma, of
Well, that's the thing I respect about this movie because I really do like how people are watching it and they're having an experience with it. They're having an emotional experience with it. They're feeling seen by this movie, and that to me is just like bliss. I love that because it's just what else do you want, from a film? To see especially your film community having such a moving, touching experience with the language of film. There's nothing
sure.
better than that, I think.
And to be clear, like, I don't think this will be a film that's, like, in my top 10 by the end of the year, but I definitely think it'll be one of those, like, warmly reflected upon honorable mentions. Like, it's one of those films that, like, it is very personal. It's a very, gratifying film, I think, of what it sets off to do. I can't say I'm, like, at the same level as some folks who are, like, 4 out of 4 stars, the movie of the year. I wish I was right there. I'm not quite, but I think
Same.
it really does a lot of things quite movingly and beautiful. And even though I got a little bit more out of it than you do, I can understand your complaints.
It's just so funny. Like as you were alluding to earlier, it's like you and I could have the same rating on a movie and still completely disagree on it.
Well, that's the beauty of film. I think it's art.
Yeah,
That's why ratings are. I think that's why we did away with ratings because it's
yeah,
like
yeah, it is. I
it's
mean, it's
hard.
just like who
Yeah,
cares? Okay, but let's look at Corey Woodruff, friend of the show. He didn't give it a rating. Corey Woodruff. He just wrote. He wrote a lot. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but hey, follow him on Letterboxd. You should. He wrote, "Blue Heron is the perfect juxtaposition to After Sun, the starker reminder that life very rarely offers you any closure for some of your deepest wounds. You may have to give it to yourself, however imperfect it may be. Sometimes your pain can splinter in a euphoric sense of finality, of accepting and letting go with abundance, like an After Sun. Blue Heron is about the more unforgiving pangs of sorrow that we must let go with grace because acceptance comes empty-handed. We don't get the answers. We just accept the gaps in memory and the silence that follows them. They're both beautiful ends in their own ways, but one bursts from you like a fireworks show, and the other leaves you like vapors in the air." He wrote even more, and it's Corey Woodruff. He's like breaking out the emotional tear ducts. Like, look at this, look at Corey go. I'm gonna have to bring up Blue Heron with him if he and I have another bonus episode together soon.
Oh, I thought you were gonna bring it up with him with Mandalorian Grogu, just talking.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm hoping we
Speaking
talk about
about dysfunctional parental relationships,
it. Yeah, exactly. Friend of the
Mandalorian
show,
Grogu has an interesting one with
I just like how you
Raba
say
or Rudu the Hut or whatever. What's his face?
Rada. I just love how you
Rada.
say Grogu. It's Grogu, and you're like, I don't care.
Do you think I care?
No. Friend of the show, Clint Worthington, gave Blue Heron 4 stars out of 5 and a heart. He wrote, I won't be able to read the whole thing, but he said, Sophy Romvari is doing some intricate stuff here, using all kinds of novel cinematic grammar to sell that idea of memory through sensation. A more cynical me might accuse this of being navel-gazing movie therapy, in which a self-insert filmmaker protagonist uses the medium of film to literally revisit her own childhood and mine her traumas for public consumption. But if I didn't hate it in All of Us Strangers or Petite Maman, I wasn't going to begrudge it here. And I'm really glad I was thinking of All of Us Strangers during this one, like the meeting the parents and everything, because like this movie does a very direct kind of like mirrors to that, right? And then Petite Maman, of course. Petite
Yeah,
Maman, I think, of all the films we've talked about, After Sun and all, I think Petite Maman's the best at this.
probably.
Um,
I mean,
it's my favorite of the films, and they're all great films. So,
yeah, that's a great pool. I mean, I totally forgot about that, but yeah, that would be a wonderful double feature with Blue
wouldn't it
Heron.
though?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially because it's so lighthearted and nice, that you can kind of like, it
Yeah, that's
obviously
like
has its perils, but like
yeah, that's like almost like gets into like Miyazaki territory at times, and this one's a
exactly,
lot yeah,
exactly. That's
yeah,
why it's a
yeah.
good double feature because it's the same subject matter, but it's a totally different lens. So it won't just hit you with the same emotion over and over. But anyway, Chris Evangelista, friend of the show, gave it 4.5 stars. He said, "It won't get better." Just in that, in quotes. Who else we got here? Friend of the
That's like
show.
every I apologize, I love Chris, but that's like every Chris Evangelista review and
Yeah, yeah.
opinion of life.
There you go. Of course, Will Ashton, gave it a heart. You don't give a heart to just anybody, so I appreciate that. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. And you gave it away.
A film I
Allison,
didn't give a heart is Last Christmas, though.
yeah, that's true. Friend of the show, Allison Johnson, and also one of my fellow co-founders of In Between Drafts and our editor in chief. Allison gave it, or Allie, I call her. Allie gave it 4 stars out of 5, and she's somebody I would love to talk about this movie actually because she liked After Sun more than I did, and I really love that film. I would be very curious, like what she thought of the relationship between the two films and all of that. Let's see who else we got here. Friend of the show, well, best friend of the show, excuse me. Kimber Myers, 4.5 stars and a heart. Kimber Myers had a great time at the movies. Clear, she wrote, I went into Blue Heron cold, knowing little more than what I could glean from the enigmatic trailer and the snippets of rapturous buzz Sophy Romvari's film earned on the festival circuit. It's not entirely clear what it's doing or how powerful it will turn out to be in its first half on an initial viewing. Blue Heron appears to be a straightforward but well-executed drama about a family trauma viewed through the eyes of a youngest daughter. However, about halfway through its 90-minute running time, Romvari upends our expectations and cracks open our hearts in the process. She's made a film that is simultaneously tender and delicate and wildly bold in its ambitions without ever feeling gimmicky. She wrote a full review of our Crooked Marquee that you can check out as well. And similar to Kimber, yeah, I went into this super cold. I didn't watch the trailer or know anything about it going in. I assume you knew plenty. I think you already said like you knew some stuff about it, right?
I mean, not in terms of the particulars of the plot, just like the generalities. So that's why, like I said, like I didn't know watching it, and that's like part of the reason why I find the first half so unsettling because I was like, is this going in a we need to talk about Kevin direction, or is this going in an After Sun direction?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. You did say that.
yeah.
All right, and then Man of the Jedi, friend of the show, gave it a heart, no review. Alex Billington, friend of the show, gave it 3 stars, no review. And then lastly, Isaac Feldberg. Isaac gave this 5 stars. I think he watched this movie a lot. Yeah, he watched it like several times,
I
according
mean,
to his letterboxd. But he did 2 different reviews. His first one he did back at TIFF, and he gave it 5, and then he kept the 5 when he rewatched again in April. I'm just gonna let's see. He did a really long one in the first. No, not really long, but he did a long one. I'm just going to read his first one. Quote, I wish I had a better answer, end quote. Processing will take a lifetime, maybe more, but fiction is what we make in our furtive, desperate yearning to fill in our gaps, to bring into focus all of that which we can never see fully. The long lens shooting style, protrusion of sensory detritus, blinker, child's eye perspective, so many other quietly brilliant choices made here all work together to establish the dull, reverberant pang of a memory that never quite coalesces into clarity, a reflection that blurs. We spend our lives trying to fit together all of the pieces into some greater whole, but instead, faced with our inability to do so, clasp to the fragments like talismans from which we can fashion a new, if not ever fully recovered, sense of self. We are all assemblages of unanswered questions and open wounds, and it's only through sifting through our partial recollections that we can appreciate how it perhaps was, what could have made us to be, to propose these lesser answers for ourselves to learn to live with. That's Isaac. I mean, Isaac's going to have, the most, New Yorker interpretation of the film.
I was gonna say,
Let him have it.
I was gonna say, like, if Isaac Feldberg gave it 5 stars, you know it's a film you have to see.
That's right. That's right. Isaac, Isaac has great taste, as we all know. All right. I think that'll do it for this week's episode. We do have the Rotten Tomatoes game. I did forget to do that for Blue Heron, but I have a feeling you already kind of know that it's pretty high.
I
But
mean,
let's go for your guess anyway. We have 80 reviews. What do you think?
is it like 98%?
98 exactly. Were you already aware?
No.
Oh, well, good guess.
Well,
Popcorn meter, though, 50
I
ratings
mean,
plus.
Maybe I saw at some point and forgot, but I just had a hunch. It was not, I haven't seen it in a long time. If I have,
It did
seen
hit 100 at some point, and then it
Yeah.
dropped down a little bit.
Audience score, I feel like it's probably lower just because this seems like the enigmatic a film that audiences don't really gravitate to as much as critics. So I'm gonna say 78%.
That was also, you're doing better with this one than Obsession. 74. You're only a few points off. Impressive. But yeah, for sure. This is just one of those movies, that audiences are going to be like, wow, high ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. I'll go see it. The heck was that?
I don't know. I just feel like the Midwestern guy, no offense, is just gonna be like, I don't get it. Like they play on the computer or they play the Microsoft Paint.
Is that Midwestern? That just kind of sounds like Kentucky. What do you do?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm from.
Those of us who live in Minnesota, like what?
I don't know where I'm from. All I know is this movie. It's the Canadians, and they just don't know what they're talking about.
I mean, you did like 5 different things there, and I'm impressed.
I might be a redneck.
I like this new character you've come up with. I hope we see them again soon. Will Ashton, let's finish out with what we might be able to talk about next. As you already kind of mentioned, you thought maybe you could talk about I Love Booster, or you will see I Love Boosters soon. In terms of stuff that is coming out, I'm going to be seeing Power Ballad on Wednesday. Originally was going to be seeing Pressure tomorrow. I probably won't actually see it till Thursday. Backrooms, I don't know when I'll see it. I'm sure we'll talk about that. How could we not? I think that's it for what's coming out this weekend that I'm thinking of. Am I missing anything?
I feel like there's something. But yeah, Backrooms seems like the event film that's coming up next and the one that might usurp Obsession's vibe right now. So depending on if it's good or not. I've heard kind of mixed things so far about Backrooms, but I am curious about it. And it seems to be of a kin with Obsession in terms of like YouTuber turned filmmaker, in that case a much younger one, which is saying something for Curry Barker, who I think is like 26. So yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I would love to talk about I Love Boosters or Is Gaz Is.
There's also The Breadwinner. I didn't mention that one because I don't want to see it.
Nate Bragg is whatever his face is.
Yeah.
The modern day Bill Engvall.
I think he seems like a great guy.
I'm sure
between
he is,
like this, his TV show, it's like a little bit of, we're getting overnated.
He has a TV show?
Yeah, it's like it comes on after Wheel of Fortune, and it's like what like the average American thinks that it's like a trivia show. It's anyway, I've said enough. I hope we talk about Power Ballad at some point because it's the new John Carney film.
Oh yeah,
Jack Reynor, Paul Rudd, Havana Rose Liu. We mentioned her earlier. Nick Jonas is in this.
Sure.
I'm a sucker for this for John Carney in general. You know that, and it just kind of looks like him having some fun, especially after his last one that he did. It was like the Apple TV movie one. Which I thought was only okay. And, it wasn't
It was
that
all right.
great.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, it's John Carney. I'm still going to watch it. I'm still going to have an emotional experience.
I mean, looks like the next thing that's coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend is the new Scary Movie and Masters of the Universe. I don't know if you're planning to see either of those.
Yeah, Scary Movie. I think I don't think I said yes to the screening yet.
Oh, they gave you a screening for it. Oh.
Yeah, and then Masters of the Universe, we do have a screening, and that one too. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll just watch it on a Thursday.
I've heard early good things about Masters of the Universe. I haven't heard anything about the new Scary Movie. I imagine the new Scary Movie is going to be stinky doo-doo, but I'm going to see it because I definitely have a soft spot for certain scary movies, and I am a sucker for a parody film. I imagine this one's going to be some tired boomer humor, but I need to see it.
We could also pull a fast one and do Tuner. That's expanding its release this weekend. So
love to talk about it if you want to see it.
You've already seen it, so like I could catch up on it as well. So we have some options. As always, if you made it this far in the show, that means you really like us. And so if you have your own thoughts on like what we should talk about in general, please reach out. Technically, we don't have an email right now because we have the old Cinemaholics email. But you can always comment on the website, thankgodformovies.com. You can do that. Very easy. But okay, that'll do it for this week's episode of Thank God for Movies. Thank you so much for listening. We'll hope to be back very soon. But until then, from the Internet California, I am John Negroni.
And for the Internet Pennsylvania, I'm Elish.
See you next time.
Bye.